What's the difference between the Srixon ZX Hybrid Mark II and the Srixon ZX Utility Mark II? So I've got the Srixon ZX Mark II Hybrid here. This one's adjustable because it's in the demo kit. You can't get this in retail. They have a fixed head that is glued in. In the Hybrid, we've got a wider sole here. So when we get into the turf, it doesn't dig in as much. It bounces off a lot easier. So that does make them a lot more forgiving. Also, the weight's distributed down and back from the club face. So we've got more weight back here, which reduces the twisting and off-center hits. So in theory, it's a more forgiving on off-center hit, higher flying tool than the Utility. The Utility, we've still got some meat at the base of this club, but it doesn't get as far away from the club face, so we don't have the weight right back here stopping it from twisting. It's a bit closer to the face, which helps us produce lower launching shots, which could be better in the wind. So I'm going to hit a few hybrids down this fairway. It's quite a tight fairway. There's a small window to hit here, but hitting it around the yardages that I get with these clubs gives me the ideal neck shot in theory. But I'm finding that this club is a lot easier to hit the ball high because of where that weight's placed, and it's a lot easier to hit a draw. He says while hitting a big push. No, it's not a push, it's drawing back. In the fairway. It's easy, it just launches off the face very nicely. And if you get the chance, go and hit one. So that finished at 259, which is very nice indeed. Now what we're trying to create with different clubs in the bag is different yardages. So we've got the tools to hit the ball further, shorter, off the tee to give ourselves different yardages into the green. Or we're looking for something that's just easy to hit so we can have something that's reliable to go to off the tee, into the green and in different situations on the course. There's a lot of people that have really bad days with their driver and they need something to go to that they can trust. And a hybrid is normally one of those tools. The shaft I've got in here is the standard stock shaft that you'll find on the shelf. It's the Hazardous RDX Smoke in red, 6.0, 80 grams, and it's not a bad shaft. It's got a lot of bend and release into the ball. It's easy to get the ball flying with it. If you swing it a little bit faster, you might want to look at some custom shafts that are maybe a bit stiffer and a bit less twisty, because there's enough forgiveness in the head to allow you to play a stiffer shaft or a stiffer profile of shaft. Now the only thing with these is if I want to hit like a fade or if I want to hit it left to right, I'm just going to experiment here on this shot with whether that's easy to produce or not. I'm going to aim at these trees and try and move it that way into the fairway, in theory. Solid hit. I've just hit a push fade. I've got the shape, I've got the height. The club makes it easy to produce that height. I'm just about in the fairway, 254 up, that's quite nice. Maybe harder to start the ball left. And I feel like it's a bit harder to work the ball left to right with a club like this. But if you slice the ball or leave the ball to the right as one of your bad shots or a tendency, a hybrid like this might be easier to keep it on the straight and narrow. So this one, I'm just gonna see if I can keep the ball low. So I'm gonna move it further back in my stance. Really gonna try and drive this ball down. So say I'm hitting it into wind or anything like that, is that shot, how available is that shot and how does it compare to the Utility? Not bad. It's a bit of a slingy draw. Not a terrible shot apart from that tree in the way. Right, sit down. Rah, missed the fairway. But 258, similar sort of yardage. I could work the ball a bit lower, but if I wanted to hit a low fade, that's probably one of the hardest shots for me to hit with the hybrid. So I feel like we've got a bit of a tendency high and left with that stick. If I now go into the Utility, the stock shaft we've got here is the UST Mamiya Recoil Dart. It's in an F3, which is stiff flex and 90 grams. So only 10 grams heavier than the shaft in the hybrid. This by all means is quite an active shaft. It's got a bit of bend in it, but I think it complements the head quite well because the head's quite low launching, a little bit of forgiveness, a little bit more workable, but the shaft gives it just enough play to feel quite soft and easy. So just a couple of stock swings here where I'm just hitting a normal shot. Yeah, like that. Big draw. Get out the tree. In the middle of the... Oh, it's through. Nice. Okay, that's going to be a very difficult shot to get into that pin because I've got a tree in the way. So it's not ideal. And I also risked hitting the tree. But it's 248, not bad. Tiny bit thin, tiny bit pushy. I think I just lunged into that a little bit, bad swing. Carrying quite nice, 230, 243 in the sand, not bad. So they're all like stock swings and any variance is just my swing and the club mixture. I'm gonna try and hit that fade that I tried to hit with the hybrid. So I'm gonna go at these trees here on the left. I'm gonna try and move it away into the fairway. So let's sort of see how much movement I can get on the club. So at those trees. Clean contact, not a huge amount of fade. Hit that pretty straight. landing on the fairway quite far up, 251. Not the slingiest shot. So again, it could be that I need like a harder, harsher shaft that I'm kind of more used to kind of get into that ball, leave the face open and create more curve. Maybe this is a bit easier and it just helps me shut the face down a bit too much, but it does give it a nice soft feel and an easy launch, which is very welcome on a bad day. Right, let's try and hit a lower shot in the same fashion I did with the hybrid. So I'm going into wind, for example. I feel like this is a lot easier to get back in my stance and sit behind the ball nicely still. I feel like with the hybrid, if I get it this far back in the stance, the back of the club like sticks up more and it has a bit more gap here, so I don't feel like it's kind of sitting naturally. It wants to sit a bit flatter and a bit more neutrally, but because I don't see that when I put this back in the stance and get my hands forward to hit that low shot, it's just a lot easier to accept. So if I do the same thing as the hybrid where I'm trying to hit a low shot, again I feel like I can get it further back, I feel like I can drive it down a bit more, it's a bit more inviting to hit that shot. So I can really drive that ball down. It has still gone quite high, so it'd be good to see how different the numbers are in that. So again, it could be a different shaft that I need to really hit that shot if I really want to, or quite simply more practice. Probably more likely the practice thing. Can't always blame the clubs. So I do just want to put a stiffer shaft in this hybrid. Again, this is adjustable because it's one of the demo ones. So I'm going Hazardous Black 6.5, which is not available on the shaft spectrum or the shaft choice and custom fit. It's just one that I've built because I had it. But something like the Hazardous Black Gen 4 would be a good option to look at for something a bit more stout and a bit more stable. So it feels stiffer to waggle. I've got the stiffness and the rigidity from the shaft, but I've got a really forgiving head on the end, which I always find is a very nice balance. And then in the ZX Utility, we're almost doing the opposite, where we have a less forgiving lower launching head, but a shaft that just helps and feels softer. I haven't made a habit of asking for subscribers on the channel this far, because I'm leaving it to you to decide whether you like what I see or not. But if I start asking, I might get some more. Oh, that was nice. Again, just feels a lot more solid. Because of that head, I'm launching the ball high, I'm getting a nice easy draw. Because of the shaft, it's keeping up with my pace into the ball compared to the other one, but I'm still hitting the same sort of yardages, 259. I might just produce them a bit more consistently for a shaft that suits me better. So let's have a little look at some numbers. So ZX4 is what I had the stiffer shaft in the hybrid on. Peak height 38 yards. Utility club, driving iron, 37 yards of peak height. When I'm looking at the hybrid in the standard shaft, I've got 42 yards of height. So toe to toe between the hybrid and the driving iron, we've got more speed on the hybrid because it's a thinner face and it's got a bit more spring on it. Higher flight. We've got very similar spin, but slightly lower spin with the hybrid. When you've got weight below the ball, we get more height and less spin. So that kind of makes sense here. Carry just that little bit more. The spread's not too bad in comparison, but we're just a little bit shy on the utility. But we do have 20 degrees on the utility and 19 on the hybrid. Only 1 degree in it, but it's all there. Again, more carry with the hybrid, more overall distance with the hybrid, but the spread on that 9, I think that's kind of coming from the mixture of shaft and head combination for me, just being a bit more variable, a bit more precise with the head. On the driving iron, I'm hitting my yardages a bit more consistently. Blue one is the utility here, so our spread is there. We've got a bit more left to right variance in the hybrid. So we're a bit more spread out, but higher up to get there. So if you hit the ball a little bit too low, the hybrid's going to be a very good weapon to use. I feel like the utility's just got that little bit more versatility. I can shape the ball a bit easier. So if I was looking for something that gave me a bit more of a uniform flight off the tee, I'd definitely go for the hybrid. If I'm looking for something that I can manipulate a bit more, hit low, hit left to right, hit right to left, and shape a bit more, I'm going utility all day long. Because the hybrid is, albeit forgiving, it's a bit more samey, but some may see the benefits in that. If you enjoy what you watched here, have a look at one of these two videos, comment whether you've used the hybrid or a utility, and generally any questions that you have. And if you didn't like the video, go and find someone else's.